Chapter 7, and we are looking at Section 10, Object Composition. So this occurs when an object is a member variable of another object. It's often used to design complex objects whose members include simpler objects. And we're going to look at the example from the book that takes a carpet class. And inside of the carpet class, it's going to use a rectangle because the carpet is basically just a rectangle. So it has one instance field, price per square yard, and it has a second instance field, size, where size is actually going to be a rectangle. And then it has the carpet member functions. So we are going to take a look at this example. We are going to show you where you can find all of the sample code from the textbook. If you're not familiar with this, you can download your source code files. And then I like to open my preview pane here on the right hand side, and I can then go scroll up and down, back and forth, looking at the different examples. If you haven't learned how to do that yet, you want to be doing that and looking at all of the samples from every chapter. Another thing that you can do so you don't have to open up Visual Studio all the time, or if you're using another IDE, is you can open these with Notepad. So I right-clicked and I'm editing with Notepad. And then I can open that in Notepad. It's a little bit off the screen here, so let's pull that over and see if I can find it. There it is. Now, one nice thing about doing this in Notepad is then I can actually, if I want to just borrow this and use it, I'm going to select all, I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to go back to Visual Studio. And I'm going to show you another little trick that you can use. I've been trying to put all of my examples here in one project. And so I've been running this on the circle demo. This isn't exactly going to fit with my circle demos, but I'm going to show you how you can add a new item. This one happens to be a rectangle. And it's also showing composition, but the name of the class actually is a carpet class. And so I'm just going to go ahead and name it carpet.cpp, and I'm going to add it. But then I'm going to double click. Oh, it's already open. And I'm going to paste my code in there. And so that's going to be my carpet example here. And actually it's not necessarily a class name. I can rename that. So it's more descriptive. I can name it carpet and then underscore rectangle and then underscore composition. So I know that that's my example for composition. Now I'm going to have a problem if I try to run this. If you guys are doing this in Visual Studio, if I try to run it, I'm going to get an error message. And that error message is going to tell me that I have more than one instance of main running somewhere. See if I can get that error message thrown. And that's because it says there were build errors. Would you like to continue? You always want to click no. And you can go down here to your error list, and it says main is already defined. In carpet rectangle composition, one or more defined symbols found. What that's telling you is that you have a main in another file. And so we've got main here as well. So what you can do is right-click and go to Properties and temporarily exclude that file from the build. And you can see that that's what I've done with all these others. So I can see all of my files here. I can double-click on them and open them up if I want to. These are all the ones that we've been working on. But then I don't have to keep creating a new project every time. Okay. Now we want to take a look at this class. I'm going to close the rectangle class for right now. But this particular project, if I run it now, we should be able to execute it, and it should give us the output. So it's going to ask us our room in feet. Let's say we have a 10-foot by 12-foot room. And so the price per square yard, so that'd be 10 by 12 is 120. Let's say it's $5, which is unrealistic, but let's just say it is. And it didn't show up on the screen because I always use my shortcut, so I have to do system pause if I want to see it show up. Actually, if you don't do that, you guys can do just to tell you, it's a Control F5. If I use Control F5, I should be able to get around that error. And it's not an error, it's just the fact that it's running on this console window. So what do we say? I'm actually going to do 5 by 10, and then I'll say that I'm doing 5 yards, and that didn't work. So system pause. Control F5 should work. Don't know why it didn't, I'll be honest. Alright, we'll try it one more time. But the whole thing that we want to take a look at here, composition of functions means that or composition of classes means that I have a class within a class. So now my room is 5 foot by 6 foot, which is be 30 foot, and if it's $5 per square yard, the total price of your carpet is $16, and that doesn't make sense. Oh, that's price per square yard. Okay, so I didn't calculate that because this was in feet. So I'd have to double check to make sure that that's running accurately. I'm just going to, I know I shouldn't, but I'm going to say that it is running accurately. Okay. Because I wouldn't have, because if I went and actually calculated this, I would have, if this is feet, you would divide 30 square feet by 9 in order to find the number of square yards. So 30 divided by 9 is a little bit over 3. 5 times 3 is 15, so that's in the ballpark. So it should be good. But that's not the objective of this example. The objective is to look at this. My carpet is made up of a price per square yard and a rectangle. So this is the idea of composition of classes, when I have another class inside of a class. And you guys are used to me maybe saying, in order to test classes to see if something is of a certain type, when we use what's called inheritance, we have an is-a relationship. This one will be a has-a relationship. So I'm going to say a carpet has a rectangle in it. And so a carpet is made up of price per square yard and a rectangle. That means everything inside the rectangle class here is accessible to the carpet class by using this variable size. So when they use size.setLength, they're talking about the carpet. And notice they divided by 3 to get the price per square yard, because our price was per square yard, not per square foot. Okay, and so set width, they take the width divided by 3. One thing to be careful of here is these are doubles, and so we're okay with this calculation here. But if these two values were integers, you guys would get an integer division error. So a lot of times I will often just say and divide by 3.0, so I don't get an integer division error. That's just an FYI. And then when we call size get area times price per square yard, that gets the total price and returns it for us. So that's an example of composition of classes, where you're using a class inside of another class. It's pretty common actually that happens, and so just kind of be watching for that. I don't know if there's anything else in this particular project that was of interest. If we take a look at the output, I was going to look to see if they formatted it to 2 decimal places, and they did not. They did put a $sign in front of it. We haven't actually learned how to format, well, we have learned how to format to 2 decimal places. You could use your set precision in order to do that here. For example, right before this line, you could do we have to do what? Set precision to show point, and there was one other argument and it's not coming to me. Set precision, show point, and something else. Okay, there were 2 missing pieces. It was fixed, so set precision to show point and fixed, and then in order to use set precision I have to use pound include IO manip for input output manipulation. And then when we do that, we should get the output to be to 2 decimal places there. And as long as that descriptor is before the output for the $sign, then we should be okay. So there we go. We got it to 2 decimal places. Not a realistic price for the carpet, but that's what we got. that should summarize and show you this idea of object composition. So you have an object within an object. Now, the textbook has been defining all of these objects within one class, or excuse me, one file. They have the rectangle class inside this file, they have a carpet class inside this file, and they have main inside this file. That is not the way that you should set up a program, and we have gone through this once in class, but we're going to do it again a little bit slower here, probably in maybe a couple different parts. But we are going to do what's called separating the implementation of a class from this driver. So your client program should kind of stand on its own. You need to tell the client program what classes it needs to work with, but then these classes here should be written in a completely separate file. And even that is actually broken up into a couple of files. And so that's going to be the next few videos, is to show you how to do what's called separating your implementation of a class.